Hey guys, Al from AnyForty here, live stream number 3. Let's get Travis online quickly if we can. We have got a little bit of a problem there with a bit of a slow connection. Probably the entire area of Gateshead on my broadband. So let's see if we can get him on board. Here he is. That's it. Add.
Hey, man.
Yes, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, really
Mate,
good.
yeah, wicked. Mate, thank you for giving up your time on a Wednesday morning?
Yeah. No, it's not so bad. It's 7 o'clock here, and the sun's just about to come out, so it's no biggie.
Beautiful,
The kids
man.
are about to start walking through at any stage, so get ready.
Oh, yeah, man. Incredible. Mate, it's been a long time since we've spoke, man.
Yeah, I saw that last night that we caught up 2013 in Melbourne talking
Yeah,
about t-shirts. So
that's it.
doesn't seem like that long ago, but a lot's changed since then too, which is pretty
Oh,
crazy.
mate, scary times how quickly it flies. But
Yeah.
I was thinking about last night and just vividly remember it was like we hung out for the best part of the day, didn't we? We went to the
Uh,
Melbourne streetwear stores. We had some some
uh,
beers.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and then I think you went off to catch up with Sol
Yeah.
at
Oh
Boywolf
yeah.
for the afternoon. I think he got you on the bottles later
Yeah.
that day.
That'll be those boys. Mate, so let's jump into this because
Cool.
I've only done 2 of these so far and they tend to
Yep.
fly by. So for anyone that doesn't know, shame on them. Tell them a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I'm Travis Price. I live in Australia, and I guess the best way to describe me is I'm a commercial illustrator.
Yeah,
Like many, I came from a design background,
yeah,
and what am I? I'm like 43 now, so I've been kind of working for about 20 years. So 10 of those were kind of working as a designer in like little studios, and
yeah,
then probably the last 10 years has been as a freelance kind of designer, which has a lot more been illustration and t-shirts and that type of thing.
yeah. That's incredible, man. So I was thinking about it again earlier on today, and I think me and you come from kind of similar working history, really. Like both
Yeah,
started
probably
in the
do.
50s,
Yeah.
and I think we both started brands up around a similar time. Like not.
I think AnyForty'd have a few more years on me.
Nah, man.
All that being said, the kids brand probably was starting. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about because that's the first time I found out about you. I think it was back in
Yeah.
the
Yep.
computer arts days, and you had Mr.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of interesting because that was probably I just quit my day job and gone freelance. And we just had our first kid, and it got our first mortgage as
Yeah,
well. So it was kind of crazy times. And we started up this t-shirt brand for kids called Mr.
yes,
The idea being that I wanted to get into t-shirts, but I didn't quite know how to make
yeah,
steps in. So I thought, well, maybe a kids brand would be a good start, which was kind of interesting because it was kind of a big learning curve with that stuff, with understanding who the buyer is and all those
yeah,
type of things. Because I think the biggest learning curve there was that we kind of had this really cool product. It was at a high price point as well, at about $40 Australian for a
yeah,
kid's t-shirt, which you can kind of buy a kid's t-shirt for about $15 as
yes.
well.
Been
And it was tough because we were finding that, the kids loved our tees, but the issue was it was either really a nana or a mum who
yeah,
was making the buying decision. And that was a really kind of interesting thing that I guess to get your business head around, to go,
yeah,
okay. And so it was kind of good to go through that and then kind of then get into adult brands and that type of thing and
yes,
doing stuff for kind of older tea brands. And it kind of looking back too was kind of funny because it probably would have been easier if I just had have gone out and done an adult brand.
mate. That's it. Nothing easier,
Dealing
like
with the kids.
it's good to go slightly the hard way, isn't it? Learn these
Yeah, it
things.
was good. Like the upside to that too was Mr. really helped me build my folio,
Yeah,
but also helped me get really quick at illustrating.
yeah,
It's one thing I always say to students that illustrating is kind of like running. The more you run, the easier it gets and the quicker you
yeah,
get.
yeah,
And so I see kind of a lot of guys who, like myself, you got your day job and it's a big deal to go out on your own. It's a lot of time you're working those kind of late hours to try and do other stuff. But when you do finally make the call, you get so much better, so much quickly,
because you have to, don't you?
Yeah, and it's your 9 to 5 job, so you're actually kind of investing in yourself at the same time. So it's a strange thing.
So how long did Mr. actually last for?
Oh, I don't know. I think we did about five series.
Yeah.
So maybe it was about 2 or 3 years. We kind of went into what else we do? We kind of went into posters and decals and greeting cards and that type of thing as well. Probably our toughest thing was we did a couple of trade shows, kids trade shows, and it was a killer, I reckon. Like we probably would have spent say $15,000 on trade shows, and really never recouped it.
No,
it was just
it's something you go through. You get the dream, like right, you might get this one huge, because these trade shows you get the big buyers going there, don't you?
And that's
you don't often know who they are.
No, that's the tough thing. And I think that's it. I think with these trade shows too, the idea is the big guys coming through.
Yeah.
And they're never coming through. Like, I think the biggest guys we probably got through would have been, say, Kmart.
Oh, yeah.
And it was their design team just looking for inspiration.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And they spent, about an hour at my at our stand, and it's just kind of crazy. So, yeah, it's weird. It's weird like that. I just noticed my computer's turned off, and that's why the light's gone down.
I thought you were just getting moody, taking it down a notch. Just getting gradually darker and darker. Yeah,
I've got the phone in front of the computer screen, and the sun's slowly coming up, but it's still kind of dark inside.
Mate, look, we don't want to talk too much about this pandemic and stuff like that because everyone's sick of it. But Australia's had a hard time, man. You've had a hard time.
Oh, look,
haven't you?
I think I feel like we've got a lot easier than a lot of places, to tell the truth.
I'm just talking about. Sorry, I should have mentioned, but the bushfires and stuff seem to kick.
Oh yeah. Look, the bushfires. Our summer was awful with all that stuff. And
you get affected much where you live?
No, not really. We're probably 100 k's west of Melbourne in Ballarat.
Yeah.
And it's known for being cold and wet. That's what we're known for. So we weren't really affected. We kind of got the odd fire, but nothing like what the rest of Australia got was horrific, really. And
that's good, man.
So it is. When you say that, it was pretty tough to kind of see all that happening. And you do feel for those communities that it's trying to bounce back, and then this whole thing's happened as well, which has affected everyone pretty well. Yeah.
Terrible. But yeah, we could talk about that, but everyone's
yeah.
Let's go back to creative stuff. So you had your kids brand, Mr. And then you moved into your adult brands. But before you set up your own brand, Jimmy Royale, how did you first get into doing t-shirts for I guess menswear brands?
So probably the biggest issue was trying to get doors to open to get opportunities to do work for other brands. And that was tough. So Mr. It meant that I had actually built a pretty good cartoony folio of stuff. And that meant that on the commercial side, I was doing a lot of commercial work from that as well. So like doing stuff for like drumstick ice creams or, Jack Daniels or whatever. So that was starting to kick off on that side as well. But then I was trying to work out how to get into the t-shirt game at the same time, knowing no one. So the big one was there was a skate shop in Chadstone called Blindside. So I kind of hit those guys up out of nowhere. And I'm still friends with Vince, actually. We still kind of chat a bit. And I think looking back, he sent me through, do this t-shirt, do this cipher of every dead rapper. And it was funny, now we know each other. He was kind of saying, like, he kind of got this email and going, oh, yeah, I'll test this guy out.
Yeah.
I'll give him this crazy brief and see if he does it or not. And I did it, and he was happy. And so from there, we started doing more stuff together.
So what sort of time was this? 2000 and...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, what is it, 20 now? So it must have been around 2011, around there somewhere, I think, 2012.
I know when we linked up in 2013, it was like, obviously went in all the skatewear, in the streetwear stores, like Sasha's, Black Book and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And your work was everywhere, man. You were killing it.
Well, that was probably because of Eddie Zammit too. He's probably been a big deal in my career as well. So for those that don't know, Eddie runs T-World magazine, and he luckily lives in Melbourne. So yeah, I got on a retainer with Blindside, and so they just throw me crazy little, bearing packs or skateboard designs, and it was just the perfect, nice little job to build your folio as well. And they were really great guys to work with.
Yeah.
So then from there, you kind of started to build the folio more and get more opportunities to do work for different t-shirt companies. And that being said, I did a lot of designs for free, getting paid in t-shirts that never arrived at the same time. So, so this is something that happens. You just got to kind of build the folio, and sadly you have to do some freebies in there. I think the main thing is that you do what you want to do. If you're doing a freebie, you do what you want to do. You don't let them create out control.
We've done our fair share in the early days, paying people in stock, and you can't. It's just rude otherwise to art direct them too much.
Yeah, it is, and you kind of, if you're going to do something for free, you really should be trying to create something that you need in your folio that's going to get you more work. And that's the big thing too, is that I think through my 20s, I'll always say that I thought that you had to have actual work in your folio that you'd done. And the truth is, you really just have to have work that you can do. It doesn't need to be a real brief or a real job. No. It's more just to show that you can actually do that work. So
that's it.
If you want to get into posters or whatever it is, you need to do that and build your folio. To get those opportunities. So, kind of did all that stuff with Blindside, and then met Eddie as well. And Eddie was doing a t-shirt exhibition at the National Gallery of Victoria, which was huge.
Was that the Island one?
No, he did that before that. I didn't know him at that stage, and that was huge too. That was probably his first big one, I'm guessing. And so he did this one in Melbourne and invited a few locals along to do a talk. And so that's how I kind of met everyone. And, the truth is I met you through Eddie as well.
Yeah.
And then I think I met Sol from Boy Wolf. I met Sasha from Black Book Tees. Will from Third Chapter. So kind of met all these different guys who were all doing their own brands.
Eddie's the plug, isn't he, in the t-shirt world?
He is. And he's I think Ed's been really good to everyone in that he's introduced a lot of people without kind of, getting anything out of it at the same time. So I think I think probably 5 years ago, you probably look at Melbourne and say, shit, there's a lot going on there. And it was probably because Eddie had linked everyone up.
Definitely. Mate, I've got so much time and respect for Eddie for opening doors to AnyForty as a brand to Australia. Like, we'd sold a few t-shirts to Australia, bits and bobs. I remember I found a copy of T-World in like a bookshop in Manchester, dropped him an email, was just like, mate, this is killer what you're doing. He found out I was doing computer arts projects at the time, and then we clicked. We had a mutual interest in the whole kind of like editorial design, and then we chatted and did that initial collaboration, the Australian invasion. It was all us guys, and that's how I started. I met, like, obviously you. I knew of you guys and Ben Brown and people that have become really good friends. With them.
That had some big hitters, like Ken Taylor was in there too. It was crazy.
Oh, mate, huge. Megs, Beastman.
It was. I remember getting invited, and I was thinking, how the hell did I get invited to this one? That was good. It was good times.
Mate, now something like that happens and you're first on the list, man.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You're killing it.
But no, it's good. Like it was good. It was good to kind of get these opportunities, I guess. And I guess back then, like like I was looking at Gateshead yesterday, so that's got a population of 200,000,
Right.
and Ballarat's got a population of 100,000.
Wow.
And so it's weird, a guy sitting in kind of regional Victoria trying to work out how you get these opportunities.
Yeah.
So it was kind of that kind of stuff, like doing stuff with AnyForty, doing stuff with Eddie, that led on to doing stuff for Nike US, and it just suddenly, it didn't matter where you lived anymore. I think technology had kind of hit, and you didn't have to meet face to face with people. You could talk to someone via email and get work, which was pretty amazing. So, looking back, that was super exciting times. Like, and you just never really knew where the next job was going to come from.
Nah. That's incredible, because talking about brands, you're saying you've done work for Nike. Like, you've done some work for some great brands, man. Do you want to mention a few of them?
I've been very lucky. I'm just trying to think. So Nike, of course. I think Converse have been in there. Under Armour's been in there.
Yeah.
Been lucky enough to do stuff with Rebel 8, Johnny Cupcakes. I do a lot of stuff still with Sullen at the moment. I don't know. It kind of goes on and on. There's been little bits and pieces for different brands. AnyForty as well, of course.
All legends, those American guys. Johnny Cupcakes. Lucky enough to meet him off in Barcelona a couple of years ago, and he's just a great guy, down to earth.
It's been really interesting because I guess Johnny Cupcakes to Rebel 8 to Sullen. Well, Rebel 8 and Sullen are probably in a similar vein, but they're very different. So it's been really nice to kind of see behind the curtain, to see how things run and how things sell and designs and stuff like that. So everyone you kind of do work with, you learn something from. Yeah. And even you and I are discussing things over the years as well. You kind of share information and kind of go, okay, I'm trying to work out who this crowd is, or this market is, who is buying these tees.
It's a learning process, and it never ends, which is the beauty. Yeah. Like, you want to keep learning things, and you want to keep experiencing new things and dealing in different industries and markets and stuff.
Definitely, I think.
So in terms of you're pretty prolific when it comes to artwork on t-shirts. What sort of you do, like, a lot of client jobs at the moment, or the last few years?
Yeah, so probably if I had to probably be quite candid, I really probably last year before, I decided I need to cut back on t-shirt jobs, because it almost was, every job was for t-shirts, and for anyone who's worked in the t-shirt game, the truth is that you don't get paid a heap of money, because a lot of the time you're creating something that needs to live on a shelf for 3 months. Yeah. And so you got to work out, well, what that's worth to the company, to how that fits into the wholesale price and stuff like that. So a lot of the time, a budget for a t-shirt can vary from $250 to $2,000, depending on who it's for, pretty well.
How many they're making.
So I think probably 2 years ago, I had to relook at just how I was running my freelance, and kind of saying, right, I think that the other big issue I had was I was that hungry of chasing kind of new brands or whatever it was, or new boxes, that I wasn't putting into relationships with brands either.
Got you.
So I probably 2 years ago, I re-looked at things and thought, well, right, I've got to cut back. I can't do t-shirts for everybody. Yeah. I need to work out who I really enjoy working with.
That's it.
And keep working with them. And then at the same time, start to diversify back into commercial work again as well. Yeah. And so a lot of the time it's a real mix. So at the moment, like, I've done a couple of posters for, the Australian Soccer League and the Australian Football League as well. And also started to doing a few more gig posters and that type of thing as well.
That's I've got two of them here, actually. I've started getting them framed. The Blink 182 one.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And the other one's there. And there's the one
Yeah.
underneath there.
Yeah, so that's with yeah, that's it. That's with Miss Chris Siglin, so Mr. T-Cert and
Yeah.
Ian Williams or Williamson, I think. And so they've been amazing, those guys. Like, I think they came across me by Instagram. I've been lucky enough to work on a heap of T-shirts and posters with them. So we
The
just
stuff that I've loved is that series of, is it Eddie Vedder?
yeah. So we did Eddie Vedder's tour. So he's the for those who don't know, he's the lead singer of Pearl Jam. And so we just finished doing. I think I just finished a heap of T-shirt designs. Well, I know I did.
Yeah.
For Pearl Jam, which sadly their concert got called off, so that'll be postponed. But yeah, those guys have been cool. I think done Blink-182 and the Pixies. Who else? NoFX.
Yes.
Bad Religion and stuff like that with those guys. So that's
great,
been really interesting too, because I find the band merch thing's a different animal in itself as well. So I find, so band merch, Sullen and then Johnny Cupcakes, they all work very differently, which is really interesting. I find it fun to, I'd be crazy if I just had to do the one thing over and over. It was just the one kind of skulls and whatever every day. So it's been nice to kind of mix around things. Yeah.
That's the thing. I find it must be very hard. Obviously, I'm not going to name anybody, but there is a lot of artists who do one style of content well, and they just get hustled for it off clients constantly, and it's got to be boring just drawing the same thing, girl. Or
I think it's a tough one, because I think for a long time I never kind of worked out where I fitted in, because everyone had a really unique style, or which what I saw as a unique style, whereas because I come from that design side, it was almost like your style is depending on the client or the target market or whatever it is. So it was weird that looking at some of even Australian illustrators, they became really known for this certain style, and you'd see it and you'd think, shit, they're killing it. Like, it's amazing. Like, and their work's amazing too, but it was one of those weird things where you get to see behind the curtains and you think, hey, hang on a sec. Old mate's got a kind of full-time job during the day, and then he's doing the illustration hustle on the side. Or something like that, you know what I mean? And the truth is that because they're known for this style, it might be that they get that one big job every 6 months as well. So, which is a killer, I think. And it's a shame. And so I think a lot of those guys will then start to dip their toe over into fine art or to become an artist as well.
I've noticed that recently. It seems to be something that's happened, especially over the last couple of years.
It's funny. And everyone's dropping their street names to their real names now. It's all going highbrow.
I've noticed that. And it seems to be, people go from, there's not many people that when I started AnyForty in the illustration world that have stayed in it. A lot of them do progress to the fine art kind of thing in the painting side. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a progression, and no one likes to do the same thing all the time. But
I think that's it. And I think that you're trying to find that opportunity. And I think when we saw murals start to kind of happen and street art and all that other stuff, especially in Australia, there's big budgets getting behind them. It's building and building. So it meant that artists could actually go across there and be sustainable, which was quite nice as well.
That's it, because there's a company called, is it Apparition? Or is that in New York? Or
Apparition,
Are they the ones in Australia?
Yeah, they're in Australia. So they've got a heap of different artists on their books, and so they'll go out and do advertising kind of banners and stuff like that, hand painted as well. But then there's a whole kind of, probably everywhere, but there's a really strong kind of art scene, and the walls seem to be getting bigger and bigger over here, which is pretty amazing to kind of see some of the artists work on those as well.
Definitely. So do you have you found the Australian scene in general, in Melbourne, has it changed quite a bit over the last few years from what you see if you do venture into the city occasionally?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's kind of funny, I reckon. I don't know if it's because I feel like everything runs in cycles,
Yeah.
and I've ran through that cycle,
Yeah, yeah. I hear
and
you.
so now we're kind of coming back around again, and so it's really awful because 10 years ago you could have shown me anything and I'd be amazed by it.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've been around the block a few times, so I find it's hard for me to say, you know, yeah, things are really amazing, and then the other parts would be like, yeah, people painting on walls, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Uh,
that's an awful thing to say. But there is some, I think we've seen some really amazing artists kind of develop over the last 10 years
yeah.
through Melbourne, and I'm kind of mindful to keep looking for the younger artists and designers coming through. And there's certain ones you can see are hungry, which is really
Yeah.
cool to see as well. And you think, oh man, keep hustling, you're going to make it. Like,
Yeah. I see
so
that.
yeah, so that's kind of really nice to see as well. I was got a couple of mates who kind of, I guess, come from that realm of graffiti and stuff like that. And one of them said the other day that he feels that, street art's kind of gentrified graffiti, and
Oh,
that's kind of true at the same time.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, so that's kind of a funny thing. It's just funny things happening over here where there's Hosier Lane in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and it was known for graffiti for a long time,
Yeah, yeah, I've been
and
there.
now that's kind of became the place to get your photo taken for your wedding and
Ah,
stuff like that. And then a heap of guys came in and sprayed it all and videotaped it and sprayed over everything, and then the police and everything were saying it was vandalism, and it was just kind of, it was the funniest thing. If you get a chance, look it up on
I
Google.
will, man.
It's just like, what? What? Like, this thing was built on
Built for
vandalism.
people to paint on, yeah. That's it. Like, it's a fine line, isn't it, between
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like, I think things have come a long way, in this last 10 years. But that being said, like, I'm probably more in that commercial realm anyway. So I'm more from the outside looking in
yeah.
at what's happening. But they just had Can't Do Tomorrow in Melbourne, which was
Oh,
crazy. Like, I think there's about like 70 different artists
uh-huh.
involved. And two of my mates, Murder and Cax One, were in there as
Oh,
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Eddie was involved as well with Justine McAllister
So
and
did that
George
go ahead, or
Rose.
did that get cancelled because of the corona?
No, it went ahead.
It went
It was
ahead.
really good, actually. Yeah, so it's kind of this huge kind of double-story warehouse just full of art on walls.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see. Like, that was probably one thing that's kind of excited me, with seeing a lot of work at once. That was pretty
Mate, but
cool.
I think that's the hope for this, for what we're going through at the moment. I think with everyone having to lock down and take it easy for the next couple of months, I think it's going to
Yeah.
be a massive explosion of creativity once things open again. People are going to want to put on exhibitions. They're going to want to curate gallery shows. Like, I think it's going to be an exciting time. It's obviously going to be a
Oh.
recession. Everyone's going to be fucked, but I think there's going to be a lot of creative stuff happening.
Yeah,
Just
I think that'll be the tough thing. I think it's a good time to reset, that's for sure. Like, to relook at everything,
yeah,
get your website sorted and all the other stuff
yeah,
that you've been
yeah.
meaning to do for a long time. It'll be interesting, I think. I think it'll be interesting to see where budgets end up once we come out of this.
Oh mate,
Like, I can remember, which I don't want to get into doom and gloom of things, but once I hit come out freelancer, probably 10 years ago, the
yeah,
budgets were pretty crazy. Like,
yeah, yeah.
you could crack a $10,000 budget or a $20,000 budget. Like, these were floating around
That was the
quite a bit.
normal. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then Wall Street crashed, and then that kind of affected everyone a bit. And so I remember that was probably 5 years ago. You suddenly saw budgets were kind of halved
Yeah,
to about 5 to 2, and that type of thing. So I think that'll be the one frustration that, from an arts point of view over here, especially from the mural side of things,
yeah.
they were leading up to really great budgets, and almost like the starting point of that was hospitality,
Hmm.
especially in kind of the cities.
Yeah.
They were paying a lot more and getting a lot more artists to come in. And if you're going to open up a cafe, you were going to get someone to paint a
Oh,
wall.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that's the worry now, is that it'll be tougher because that's taken a hit. And so,
I think it will, mate.
yeah,
I've already experienced it. Like the last couple of weeks, I had a client contact me, and for a job that we'd done something similar on 3 years ago, they were offering less than a quarter of the budget
yeah,
that I did 3 years ago. So I just said, nah, not lowering ourselves to that, man. So that's kind
yeah.
of
It's a tough
now
one.
with some people. So it could go that way, but we'll have to see, won't we?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a tough one, and I guess it's one of those things that that you and I could sit down here and say, listen, don't take, know your price and whatever. But
Yeah.
the truth is, I think everyone's going to have to look after themselves a bit.
Mate, when you've got
put food
your
on the
rent
table.
paying, yeah, food on the table, kids to look after,
Yeah.
pay, trainers to buy, whatever.
But that being said, like I'm finding even, like probably like you, I was flat out at the start of this year. I think kind of through January, February, almost working every weekend to try and get on top of work. I've still got enough happening, but it definitely kind of, a lot of things got put on hold, like all within a week as well. So I think...
sorry, man, I'm interrupting.
No, that's all right.
So I was just going to say, are you looking at doing, like, if stuff does drop off a bit, are you looking at kind of rewinding a bit and going back into any personal projects like this Jimmy Royale stuff you've done in the past, which I've got a drawer full of like those t-shirts?
It's probably looking at different things. Like it's always, as you've seen, I've released another font the other week, so it's always been on my list of things to release more fonts, and just started to look at other things that it's almost. I had this New Year's resolution this year that I was going to chase all money, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is that, a job comes in for, say you're doing a job for a couple of $100, well then you're not really interested in chasing a job for $10, or if you're doing a job for a couple of $1,000, you're not interested in chasing $100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of came into this year with that mentality that I was going to try and, because, like you'll put something up on Instagram just for fun, and then someone's like, oh, put that on a t-shirt and you buy that. And you're like, nah, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
So it's been funny. I've been looking at just the print on demand stuff and thinking, well, these things can live in that universe, and if someone wants it, they can buy it. And, there's no overheads for me and stuff like that. So I think it's a good chance for all of us to kind of look at things to how we make money in different ways as well. I think we probably won't revisit Jimmy Royale. It's kind of
the past.
I've spoken to someone before, and I had a few people talk to me about bringing back Jimmy Royale, and it's a little bit like, when you break up with your girlfriend and you go back out, and we go back out, it's never the same.
Yeah,
so
it's one of those, isn't it, where you just remember the good times.
Yeah, so I think with that one, Jimmy Royale was really exciting and a huge learning curve. Which I'll explain. So I think must have been 2013 we caught up. So Jimmy Royale must have been about a year old or something like that. And it was the perfect situation where everything just kind of worked. We've got a local store here called New Generation. We're quite a big store for I guess streetwear and fashion, that type of thing.
Okay, yeah.
And so Brendan, he's also got another store at another kind of, I guess, city similar to Ballarat called Bendigo, and then he had another spot in Eston. So he kind of had these three large stores, and then we started talking about doing a brand together, which ended up being Jimmy Royale. And then he also set up his brother Damien from Premium Screen, set him up to start screen printing T-shirts as well. So it was this perfect situation, where I designed these designs. I was doing stuff with Blindside still, and friends with Sash at Black Book as well. And they're both Melbourne stores. So it meant that they took on Jimmy Royale as well. So we were able to wholesale it. And then it also went into Brendan's 3 stores as well. And so he made, a good markup on selling as well. And so it's just that perfect situation where I do, say, 6 designs every 3 months. We'd send it out to the shops, and then they'd pre-order. And then we'd go into production and try and turn it around in 2 weeks and then deliver to the
So were
stores.
you just literally just
Um,
making up enough stock to fulfill all your wholesale orders, or were you printing up quite a bit extra to kind of slang online?
yeah, we'd never really sit on a lot of stock. So, um, and because Brendan had the 2 stores, if we did want to grab stock, we'd grab it out of his stores as well.
Yeah.
So it was that perfect situation where we weren't kind of selling them out of a shed and had 100 sitting in our shed. They
Yeah.
were always,
Yeah.
yeah, they were always on a shop shelf somewhere trying to sell pretty well. And that were crazy times. Like I remember, we dropped off a load to Blindside, and they were in Chadstone, and I think we must have like dropped, I say, 200 300 t-shirts to them or something like that, and they sold out in a week.
Yeah.
And it was and Sash was
Glory
killing
days.
it. Yeah, yeah, Sash at Black Book, he was in Chapel Street in Melbourne as well, and he was
Yeah.
killing it as well. So they were like super exciting times, and there was a heap of indie brands all doing similar things, and these stores were supporting them as well. I think what kind of happened was then the big guys worked out that they could just have their in-house brands,
Aye.
not take on external brands anymore, and then Blindside and Sash both closed down as well. I think that was during
I
the
knew Sash did. I've spoken to him a few times since then.
yeah.
But Blindside closed down. That's a shame.
Well, the issue was that it was probably really when that financial crisis hit.
Yeah.
And I think that, that was probably, I don't know how you guys went over there, but that was when everyone started talking about retail's dead, and overheads of rent and that type of thing. So, so I think that really, that killed the scene here in a big way. And looking back, there's only probably a few independent stores like First Product,
Right.
who's still running their Shore store and stuff like that. But there's no one. We kind of got to this stage with Jimmy Royale where we just couldn't take that next step to the big stores.
No.
It's almost like I don't know whose dick I had to suck to do it, but you just couldn't find it,
Well, it's great to have been involved at kind of the peak time for independent brands, isn't it? Because there's especially in England as well, and I've seen it in Australia. Because I was following, there was loads of Australian brands that I loved.
Yep.
And
there's still, like that being said, that there's still great brands doing cool things, but it's just what's that? Sorry,
Burns still around? Third chapter.
Third chapter. Yeah, I think Will still kind of floats, dropping kind of small releases every now and then as well. But the killer was that the stores just stopped stocking in indies, and I reckon it's a real shame too because then they all went and created their own in-house brands that are on trend.
Yeah.
So you're not really seeing any of them actually doing anything new. They're not kind of pushing forward at all. You're just kind of seeing like, let's make this look like Black Scale out of the US, or let's make this look like, whatever. It's all like they're just kind of chasing everything from around the world, and then it's kind of like, oh, this is our brand. So I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that one day we'll get out of that again, because at the moment we've probably gone through 5 years of just black and white, and very minimal design as well. So it's just a cycle though. Like it's just a matter of kind of coming back out.
Everything comes around in cycles, and as far as UK retail, all the streetwear stores that used to stock brands like AnyForty or Benny Gold or the Hundreds, they're all stocking like Patagonia. Like skateboard brands, hiking brands, and things like that. So and people get bored of that stuff again, and then want to go back to other brands. But mate,
it's a tough one, I think.
We could talk about t-shirts for another 6 hours. Let's talk about your work again quickly, because I saw last year. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but you started doing a lot of murals, didn't you? Like local murals.
Yeah. So I do the odd mural, and it's still a huge learning curve, and it's probably one of those things that I'd probably really have to thank my friends on that side of things.
Right.
So initially, I live in Ballarat, regional town, and we have this heritage overlay here,
Yeah.
which means that if it's not grey, you can't do it pretty well.
Okay.
Which I find frustrating because our heritage is only like 100 years old.
Yeah.
And in the grander scheme of things, like right now, do people really give a shit about heritage overlay? But and I could go on about this too, but my frustration is that they're talking about this heritage overlay that, you know, back in, you know, 100 years ago, there was just signage on everything.
Okay, yeah.
But you can't do that now either, you know what I mean? So so anyway, we started just a project, got some mates to help me out in murder and cax, and then another mate, Luke Keys from Mass Motion, and we just did this retro girl illustration near one of the new craft beer places.
Yeah, I remember
and just did it for free, did it for fun, just to kind of get things moving. And then that kind of kicked everything off of starting to do more murals. It's a weird one for me because I'm so computer based.
Yeah.
So it's all about control and working out how I can have full control on these walls. But that being said, like I've had a lot of help. Like even we did another larger mural, which the city of Ballarat commissioned, and we got KDS of Carl Steen from Geelong, who's a sign writer, and he come and help us out in murder with that one as well. And they're just amazing. So it's kind of funny that you put your name to these things, but like those guys really do the heavy lifting of a lot of that stuff as well.
It's a vastly different canvas to work with, isn't it? The giant.
Yeah, it is. It is. So we've kind of done a few. Like Phil Berry's another a local artist and sign writer, and he's helped me out, and he's amazing as well. So, so that's why I laugh when you say about me doing murals. Is that I do murals, but yeah, those guys are probably the backbone of that.
Definitely, mate. Well, we've got like about 17 minutes left, so should we see if anyone's got any questions?
Oh, cool.
Or if anyone wants to chuck in some questions while we're chatting now. I think a lot of people have been in and just listening to us chit chat, man.
Yeah, cool.
So another thing I was going to ask you, I don't know if it's something that you're doing more of recently, or if I've just noticed it because of you creating your own fonts, but the typographical stuff seems to be more prevalent in your work the last year or two. Is that something you've consciously been doing, or is that just something you've always done and I've not really noticed?
Yeah, I think it's kind of I don't know. I guess I've always kind of liked typography. I never felt I was strong with it.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of coming along and trying more things with it as well. And I guess probably about 5 years ago, I realized that was probably my strength as an illustrator, is coming from a design background.
Yeah.
I understood the importance of synergy of type. So it's probably been one of those things I've kind of keep working on. And doing the font stuff because it normally is like fonts that I'm after but I can't find. And so kind of put the time aside and try and create their own. But yeah, I guess it changes from day to day. Like I said, I think maybe a couple of years ago, everything I was doing on Instagram was very kind of black and gold and white and similar to each other. And it was almost like the perfect Instagram formula for that stuff as well. And I just kind of felt like I'm boxing myself in here.
Yeah.
That I don't.
The thing, isn't it? Because it's like I love you can't go wrong with black, gold, and white.
I know, because it looks awesome on everything.
Especially because you were bringing in like I guess kind of textures in that metallic gold you were working with as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I'll never tell anybody where I got that from, but if you look hard enough, you'll find it. But yeah, I found that was really good. From an Instagram point of view, I was finding putting up vector stuff, it just looks so flat. Yeah. So I quite like actually putting things through Photoshop and Photoshop Actions, just so it's a little bit more tactile, a bit more interesting to look at as well. And even looking, True Grit textures and retro supply. Yeah. Like I look at a lot of stuff in there, and they'll have a lot of Photoshop Actions and stuff like that, which just make it look less vectory and perfect. Which a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of a nice thing.
So just going back to making your own fonts, what sort of process is there in that? Like what software are you using, or?
Yes, I'm using Fontographer, which is probably the simpler of, I think Font Labs make it. I think Font Lab might be their bigger application now. So Fontographer, I reckon I must have bought it like 5 years ago, and it was like, say, $400 or $500, so I've held on to it. And it's really nice because initially I'll set everything up in Illustrator, all my letters, and you'll kind of work out your baselines and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
My big trick for anyone who's using it is I put a box outline so that all fonts sit within this box.
Okay, yeah.
And so then I copy and paste. So you copy and paste each letter into Fontographer, into each section, and then you delete the box. Okay. And what it's done is it means that everything is scaled the same. Because if you paste things in there that are different sizes, it just scales them to fit. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the main trick there. But just kind of getting an Illustrator, laying it all out, and you'll find that there's certain letter forms that then use the same parts. So it's almost like once you've created 7 letter forms, you've actually got enough information to create the full alphabet after that point as well. Yeah, so it normally kind of takes about two or 3 days to kind of get in there, depending on how picky you are. And then Fontographer is quite nice. It's easiest to do uppercase because you can just set the kerning automatically in Fontographer. Whereas this last one I did, I had to kind of go in there and play with the kerning because I had uppercase and lowercase. You know, and you'll have an O next to a W or an M and a W. So there is certain ones you'll just need to go and play with the kerning, but it's pretty basic Fontographer. So
that's
it's nice
good
to use.
For anyone out there who fancies doing a Fontographer, get your research on and get exploring. Back in the days when, even only a few years ago, you'd get artists' fonts that are created and it would just be like an Illustrator file. Full of the characters, and you pull them out and play around with them. Right, so we've got John, who's the guy who's kindly rips off these chats we're doing to put them on YouTube at a later date because Instagram's not let me host them here. Is asking, have you not updated to Font Lab, Travis?
No, I haven't. He's on to me.
He's got you conned.
Well, the thing I have been looking at Font Lab, and the nice thing about Font Lab is that, you know, you can have alternative letter forms. So, you know, when you roll over like an R and you're like, I don't like that R. And then it gives you that kind of, here's another R or another 3 Rs or whatever it is. It allows for that. So it's a lot more, better. I think it's a bit more expensive too. So it'll be Fontographer for a bit, and then we'll see where things go.
Safe. Well, we've got another question from Milk Bar Print. And
cool.
Those guys in Australia, aren't they?
Yeah.
What are your what are your thoughts on a lot of the new design apps, Procreate, etc., and their versatility from workflow to output to print? Do you use any of those new ones, or are you just?
I don't use any of them. I'm probably the worst guy for that question, just because I'm still on mouse. I've actually got a Wacom that I bought like a year ago, and I haven't used it yet at all. So I think it's a I don't know. I need to keep moving on. Because I'm seeing all the Procreate brushes and stuff like that you can use, especially all the retro brushes. And it looks like it's pretty cool. And it's one of those weird things where I came out of year 12 and I could draw, and then that's when computers first started. So I've been on the mouse ever since. And so now I'm pretty sloppy at hand drawing. But can draw really quickly with the click and pen tool. So it's
this is the thing, you just
need to relearn.
You get used to what you do, and if your work's great and you're used to it, there's often not any reason to change. Like I do everything with this frigging click.
See, I find that crazy too. Like that does. I think, how do people? I've got a mate who designs like that too. GT, I'm sorry, man. I haven't got any good answers there but it does look pretty impressive. Like from what I can see, the way they're setting up all of those programs that they can output stuff as well is pretty impressive. So it's probably one of those things that I'm mindful that I don't want to be that old dinosaur is still
Yeah.
kind of using Illustrator 6. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think as long as they keep updating the software, I know there's a big issue with people not really happy with the monthly subscription, whereas I
Yep.
think things like Procreate and I don't know what some of the other ones I've seen people talking about, but it's a one-time payment like Adobe used to be, and you buy it and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
pay it forever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it's a tough one. Like, I think it's, you know, yeah, as a young designer, it was near impossible to be able to afford Adobe. I think we kind of
yeah,
forget about that too. So the subscription, you know, hasn't been such a bad thing in comparison, like, or comparison to, you know, borrowing someone's Adobe set from such and such studio, stuff like
Mate,
that, and
I think
putting in a dodgy code.
all of us, probably the bulk of our careers, probably were rocking bootleg copies of
Yeah, of a lot of
InDesign or
stuff. Yeah, so
before that. And
yeah, so it was tough. I remember they kind of cornered us all with that $17 a month or whatever it was, and then they got us all on board and hammered us the year later. But
yeah,
but yeah, it's a tough one. It's a lot better probably than spending 800 or more on just
mate.
buying it on CD.
Right, so we got a question here from Victor. I don't know where Victor's from, but he's asking, how long did it take you to consider yourself a professional?
I never consider myself a professional still. No, I'm self-loathing. Loathing is something you should know. So nothing's ever good enough, and I'm never
Yeah.
good enough as well. Look, it was probably, there's been little kind of steps along the way. So I remember I was lucky enough to do a Mambo job freelance when I was 25.
Okay.
While working my day job, and so that was an interesting time for me. And it was like I grew up loving Mambo as a t-shirt brand.
Mate,
And
legendary.
yeah, for those who don't know Mambo, check it out because they have like a crazy history. And I got to do my first Mambo t-shirt, and that was kind of a defining moment where it was a bit like, oh, you know, maybe I'm good enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then from there, it's almost been all these little stepping stones to, you know, doing one for Nike, and you think, oh, well, geez, Nike kind of consider me good enough. Do you know what I mean? So I think that it's all these little baby steps into things to, yeah, kind of. And I think the big one was when I finally was able to make that transition to solely be living off illustration was a big deal as well. And not that that's when you've made it, because it's just tough. Like there's plenty of great illustrators who are art teachers or whatever. So it's, you know, it's tough to kind of put certain kind of things on yourself like that. And I think, you know, it does your head in at the end of the day too. I think, you know, mental health and creativity go hand in hand. So, yeah. So I don't know if I've really answered that question, but I never quite, I always feel like I'm still learning is probably the way I approach everything I do.
I don't know if any of us ever feel like you've quite made it.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit like, you know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I'm still kind of waiting to be a man. Like, you know, when we grew up and men were men, and I kind of feel like I'm still a man child.
I remember sitting on buses and looking at people and going, they look like a grown up. That looks like a man. And I don't.
Yeah.
But,
so
you know,
it's a bit like that. I think that question is that, I'm comfortable to say that I'm a professional illustrator, but you know, it's a weird thing. Yeah, it's just it's you never. I think the time you think you've made it, you is when you got to get caught out. You got to keep going.
Mate. So just a very quick one, because we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Your boys, what's it like for them having a creative dad? Are they following in his footsteps a little bit? Yeah,
they kind of cruise around. So we've got Oscar, and then we've got Emily in the middle, and then Elwood. So the two boys, the top either end. But no, they're kind of cruisy. Like Elwood's the youngest, and he kind of seems probably a little bit more like me as a kid in that he's happy just to sit and draw all day, whereas the others kind of cruise and that type of thing. But no, it is funny. Like Oscar's 13 now, and it's kind of funny that rap's old rap to him, and he raps new rap, and so I find that quite interesting. That we're kind of crossing over into similar interests, which is kind of an interesting thing. So yeah, I think they kind of know that I do different stuff, but
Yeah.
but it's probably one of those things that they'll look back and see photos of them, you know, painting one of the walls with the guys and stuff like that. But they'll kind of go, oh, it wasn't that normal,
Yes.
and that type of thing. So
That's
yeah,
it.
I
I've
think,
always wondered that for kids growing up with parents who do different sort of jobs than Joe Public. But it's just the normal, isn't it? It's what
yeah,
it does.
it's just yeah. So it's no different to them. So but
So do you think
yeah, like.
do you think they could be the type where they're going to kind of have a creative career, or is it too early to tell?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised. Like my wife Renee is quite creative as well, so I think like the three of them kind of being around this kind of DIY approach to things can only be a good thing as well.
Definitely.
Currently trying to pay the kids money if they'll write me a rap song, and they just
Oh,
won't do
yes.
it. I'm trying to force them into rhyming and rap at the moment.
Oh, mate, that would be genius. I want to see that.
So we'll
I'll
wait and
tell you
see.
what, mate,
Wait and see.
I'm only saying this. We've got literally like a minute or two left, but we got
Cool.
cut off when I did the one with Melbs. So
Yep.
let's just wrap it up. Like I say, we could talk and talk. If anyone wants to follow you, you're on Instagram at Travis Price Illustration.
Yeah. Yep. Same on
I'm sure
Facebook, I think.
if anyone's got any questions that they didn't get a chance to ask or they're a bit shy or whatever, I'm sure if they drop you a direct message, if you've got time, you might answer it for them.
Yep.
So yeah, mate, thank you so much for getting up so early. What time's it now in Australia? Nearly 8 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, 8 o'clock, I think. Yeah, so time for a run. Get out of the house and do my hour exercise and then back to work. But thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it. And thanks for people who stopped by and asked some questions as well.
Brilliant, mate. It's been brilliant. I've enjoyed catching up with you.
Cool.
I'll have to drop you a message and have a proper chat up about linking and doing some stuff again in the future.
Cool. Sounds cool.
Yeah, mate. Stay safe in Australia. And
yeah, you too.
Some time with the family. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you, man.
Bye, Travis. See you later.
See ya.